What's up, humans? And welcome to a new episode of Psicoactivo. Today is a really special day because it's round two of Professor Simon Holland, the famous YouTuber from the UK who lives in France. How are you doing, Professor? Welcome.
Oh, it's great to be back, Pavel. Thank you for having me at short notice. This is very much a follow-up to what your last brilliant film, which you did an excellent interview with my personal friend and colleague in filmmaking, which is US Air Force retired John Burroughs. Very, 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 very good interview. I've known John for years, and he basically you managed to contract everything of his life, everything he's experienced, and his very interesting ideas of disclosure and technology into one film. So congratulations. I just contacted you as soon as I saw it and said, top film. And I thought it would be interesting for your viewers to hear from me, because John and I have been working together as filmmakers for the last 4 years, something like that. And it's really working. And he is somebody I really like. He's honest, respectful. He even knows stuff that he can't tell me, because he is such a genuine patriot. I mean, he was in the Air Force, and he was stationed, and it's something that he'll hint at, but he won't say exactly. He was stationed after
Oh,
Rendlesham
I
in very
tried to
interesting
get him.
places.
I tried to get him to
Yeah,
tell me stuff and he wouldn't.
no, well, the same with me, and that I have total respect for that. In fact, he did
Yeah,
mention a couple of things in your film that you did with him, because he mentioned he was in Afghanistan and Bosnia, and he did mention that. But there's a few more things that I know, but he won't share the exact technology, because his big story is when he joined the U.S. Air Force and was stationed. His first station was to Bentwaters and Woodbridge in England, in Eastern England, which was a NATO base, US Air Force NATO, part of US Air Force Europe, USAFE. Um, he said they were flying airplanes. I mean, if I have to paraphrase what John Burroughs says today, is there's nobody in the cockpit. The technology he saw in his 20 odd years, I think he left in early 2000s. He said it completely changed. It went from conventional warfare to very advanced physics. And that's really his story. I mean, what he encountered at Rendlesham and why, and that's my whole point, why Rendlesham Forest? Ask me, Pavel, why was it in Rendlesham Forest?
why? Tell me, please.
Well, hey, that's a good question. No, I'm joking. As a journalist, as a filmmaker, not as a UFO fanboy, but as somebody who makes films, that's my background. I approached the subject just asking a classic reporter's questions: who, what, where, when, why, and how. And I thought that would be interesting, maybe revealing. I'd know a bit more. But what is such a simple question to answer is where? Well, it was Rendlesham Forest,
In
Professor.
Suffolk,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, it's in Suffolk. It's about 100 miles northeast of London. It's a rural community. It has a seaside. It's farm country. There's a few forests and small villages and no real big town. Its history is fishing and agriculture. But it also, because of World War II, has a lot of old RAF bases. Woodbridge and Bentwaters were RAF Woodbridge and Bentwaters that the US Air Force used as a NATO base, as part of Britain and NATO. And that's why they were there. But that's not the truth. Because when I started asking why, oh, sorry, when I started asking where, why is another good one, but where? Oh, hang on a minute. Just look, this rural Suffolk community, 2 miles, 2 miles due east of Rendlesham Forest is Britain's main nuclear and physics test site.
There it
Okay.
is.
Yeah, it's Orford Ness. It's a spit of land. You have to get a boat to go to it. It's completely fenced off.
So
It
that's the
was.
real where, right?
Well, there's more. There's more. That's only one of four. Wait till you hear the other three. The top one is this place called Orford Ness. It's where the death ray was first experimented with. It was where radar, British radar, which wasn't the origin of radar, but it was British radar was born, and where directed energy weapons and AWRE, atomic weapons research, was all done. It has these strange pagoda buildings. There's lots of physics went on there, and but it was only the test site. There was no laboratories. Where are they? Oh, just at the edge of the beach. There's a large stately home called Bawdsey Manor, and that is Britain's radar facility. It has a large underground test facility, and it's where all the German radars, which we need to discuss, from World War II went after World War II and were turned into directed energy weapons and modern radar using captured Nazi German technology. So that's two. Both of them needed a vast amount of power. And Orford Ness now is a bird sanctuary and a place that you can go and walk. And it's owned by something called the National Trust. It's a park. It's a national park. And because it has a history of weapons, the guys who run it today were given something that I couldn't get. They were given what is underneath Orford Ness, a plan of the deep under the shingle. And what they discovered, what they were told, was that there is a massive power cable which goes, oh, hang on a minute. Just on the other side of Orford Ness is Britain's biggest nuclear power station, built by the government, not for anything locally. It doesn't make any sense why it's there. Okay, it's near the sea, it's got some cooling, but the reason they would put it there is because they had some local use for it. It's hundreds of miles to big cities like London and places. They lie, but it was a government nuclear power station, and there is a cable that feeds Orford Ness to big physics experiments and down to Bawdsey for radar. And I was just so pleased that this guy from now the National Trust shared this with me. But when he shared me the map, Pavel, it had another wire, another interconnect, and it went to US Air Force Bentwaters. So it's an airport. It doesn't need millions of megawatts. And it goes on to a British telecom, the British phone company laboratory called Martlesham Heath. Now, that didn't make sense at first, but now I get it. Look at a map of Eastern England. Look at a map of Rendlesham Forest. Look at what you see. You've got four places. You've got Martlesham, that's just west. You've got the nuclear power station. You've got Orford Ness, and you've got Bawdsey. It forms a triangle of laboratories, secret government or military contractor laboratories. And right in the effing middle is a forest. It's called Rendlesham Forest. If you were ever going to do an experiment, something with physics, something that was also guarded by US Air Force guards, on the south is a fence, and US Air Force Woodbridge. On the north is a fence, and US Air Force Bentwaters, and it was patrolled. There's nobody lives in the forest. There's very, very sparse roads. If you were actually wanting to say, bring something down from space, that's a bit of a clue, or experiment with directed energy weapons, or, and this is being very, very open-minded, unleash a UAP, somehow contact a non-human intelligence, this would be a place that the experiment would happen. You've got the technicians, you've got the power, and you've got the research all in that area. So just the simple question, Pavel, where isn't Rendlesham Forest? No, it's laboratory land. And the MOD, the Ministry of Defense in the UK, and the US Air Force and the Department of Defense were doing projects there
together
in 1980. So, that was a real eye-opener to me. What their direct involvement with what manifest and appeared in the forest is speculative, but who could have done it, and was there any possibility of a weapon system being used? That certainly John and I think it's likely. Yes, Also, the time it was SDI, Strategic Defense Initiative, and Britain was getting funding from the Americans. Britain was desperate for, for money from a big funded American project, and Britain had the physics. So a lot of SDI money came through the Thatcher regime, from America, and it was all channeled into that part of Suffolk.
So here's my question, based on what
Yes.
you just told me.
Mhm.
How does this new control disclosure group fits into the story? Why are they so eager to get John Burroughs's documents?
Oh
And
yeah,
do you think they
yeah, they
know
are.
about all of this?
Oh yeah, yeah, of course, of course. I mean, John's very much driving that agenda, as he clearly said to you. He doesn't trust normal media, producers at TV. I mean, I've been a TV producer. I know when you make films, you have an agenda, you have a script, and you find contributors that make contributions for your storyline. And John doesn't want to do that because they F it up. I mean, he's been there, he's done it. And this is so important to him. John Burroughs' injuries and the secrecy and the classified nature of the first 15 years of him trying to get compensation and medical treatment for his injuries at Rendlesham Forest were classified. And then, and this is why he's using the disclosure word right now, is the Department of Defense, the Air Force, the Pentagon, whoever it was, granted his full his full compensation. He got the medical treatment and he got a retirement plan because very good research by the people who worked with him, his lawyer and Senator John McCain and John McCain's office, a woman called Cheryl, who did amazing work, pulled out of the hat all the good reasons. They proved John was in the Air Force. They proved his injuries, and they related his injuries to possible weaponization program that actually was going on. And eventually, when they pulled that out of the hat, he got his compensation. Now, that effectively, an injured man, injured by UAP type frequencies, that was secret and then disclosed, is disclosure. And that's what John's going with, in the next few weeks. News Nation are very keen to look at injured servicemen because they are the key to understanding what the military actually know.
So do you think that these UAP that injured John and others, do you think they are reverse engineered, or do you think they are from a non-human intelligence?
Um, It's a good question. I think they're reverse engineered. I think that there's some very smart people looking at very advanced physics that always has been. I mean, what I are continually saying on my channel, ever since the Manhattan Project, which turned a blackboard equation into a nuts and bolt atomic bomb, that was advanced physics, very smart, you know, physicists in Los Alamos making a weapon out of physics. And that was so attractive. When that Pandora's box was open, they never shut it. So they carried on looking at further future weapon systems using advanced physics. And the thing that was knocking around that people have known about maybe for thousands of years, but certainly have studied in the last since post-World War II, are the strange, unexplained, anomalous phenomenon. And you and I both here on UFO channels, the 5 observables. Well, those 5 observables came from the military, because they don't have one. A UAP is an amorphous blob, but you can measure how fast it moves, and is it multi-dimensional? Is it a time traveler? What kind of Doppler shift? That's a big clue, by the way. What kind of Doppler shift does it have as it comes towards you or goes away, which seems to be strangely reversed? And things that has characteristics which clever people can re-engineer. How would a non-human intelligence, or it's a force of nature, I think it's intelligent, how would it do it? Where does it reveal its true nature? We want to build one. And certainly people have tried to look at what they are and have attempted to re-engineer them. I think what happened in Rendlesham was a combination of very established physics of directed energy weapons and something very unknown, which is hard to actually put your finger on what it is. But I think there was a combination. Certainly, John Burroughs' injuries, you can look up a lookup table. And it says heart damage, eye damage, mood changes, and all the things that he still has, I mean, he's still being treated for it, are absolutely in this lookup table next to the kind of non-ionizing radiation frequencies that the military knew about. And that was revealed in something called the Condign Report when they published this table of human ailments. I mean, I'm sure you know, you don't stand too close to an unguarded MRI scanner in your hospital, or you don't stand too close to a radar dish, or technicians working on radio stations know this. But the kind of frequencies that John was exposed to and others have killed people. I mean, there's dead service people, and it's a way of understanding what's out there, I think.
It's really funny because I've heard people like Tucker Carlson and Dr. Gary Nolan talking about getting people getting injured from UAP, but I had no idea exactly who was were these people. And then when I started looking at your channel, I was like, oh damn. So John is one of these people. And unfortunately, some of them didn't make it. And I think that it was very important that John could tell the story as he saw fit, and he was not being allowed to do that. And that's why I think that is very important for him to speak right now, and for you to tell your side too, because you're part of the team that is doing the film that is going to release eventually before the fall, he told me, right?
Well, we're being slightly coy about this. I had a long conversation with John this afternoon before speaking to you here live, that we are actually somehow making a film. Whether we are making it or somebody else is making it, we're not actually saying, because it's actually to protect John and to protect filmmakers, because the mainstream media are going to put a lot of pressure on whoever it is going to have the actual documents. They're desperate, as John said to you on your podcast, to actually just get the document. Well, that's not the story. I mean, sure, it would be amazing to see the real document. I've never seen it. I don't have it, people. It's not on my computer. John has never shared it. It's with his lawyer. And who's making the film and how that gets produced, I can't reveal as yet, because we're trying to keep the whole thing quiet and away from the mainstream media, who tend to be very pushy. So that's all I'm going to say on that.
That's good. That's okay. I understand. I wanted to ask you what your experience personally, how has it changed you working with John?
Oh, well, a fantastic question. My background is very much establishment, BBC and PBS and National Geographic science filmmaker. I'm a film editor. I work on those programs. And, I've also produced films for NASA and people. I mean, very mainstream. And I don't like flying saucers. I really don't. I think they're just non-critical thinking, most of them. And when somebody, a very interesting chap actually, persuaded me to go and speak to US Air Force retired John Burroughs, it took about a year because of COVID and things until eventually I got in touch with him, and he was amazing. I mean, suddenly here was a man who told me he was stood too close and in fact was enveloped in a force that he doesn't know that nearly killed him. And he had the paperwork, and this is his injuries, and these are the frequencies. I was going, well, this is real. This isn't a single point source that somebody's filmed out of a wobbly car with their camera phone. This is somebody actually who witnessed on multiple nights a very odd thing. And I like the strange. I'm very much a fan of Jacques Vallée, who calls the highly strange. If I see an aluminum flying saucer, it's probably an aircraft, or it's probably something, that most people don't recognize. But when it's really out there and really strange and has characteristics which are non-human, I think it's much more believable. And that's what John told me. And I went, tell me more, mate. And, I've been working with him. And also, I really like him as a friend. And he's very honest, very generous with his time. And I really want to help me and James Warrow and other people working on our series. I'm just the humble filmmaker, but with an interest in history of physics. That's my background. But James Warrow is a fantastic researcher. And we as a team want to help John Burroughs get, closure. What was it that he was exposed to? If the government aren't going to tell him, the Air Force lied to him, maybe we can find the answers. And I think John said to you in your interview, I think we've been very helpful for John. I think we've pointed him in directions which he hadn't originally thought. When he was at Bentwaters, he didn't know, of the laboratories next door. He had no idea. He was an Air Force security guard. Why would he know? You didn't tell him. So yeah, no, he's been a real eye-opener for me into this whole world of real unknown anomalous phenomenon.
Yeah, you say three multiple days that he witnessed it. And also it's very important to note there were multiple witnesses too. It wasn't just him.
Yeah.
That is very important too.
And just even more fascinating. I mean, the multiple witnesses is really interesting because people like Jim Penistone and Deputy Base Commander Holt and other Adrian Catanza, whatever his name is, sorry, I said his name wrong, have all seen very slightly different things. That we have discovered is a symptom of this type of effect. It affects your perceptions. So seeing a solid object is completely valid. Seeing an amorphous blobby, seeing a light in the sky, feeling an effect is all part of the same phenomenon. And it's a real big mistake for people who are looking at Rendlesham Forest to say, it was a triangular craft. Well, one person perceived it like that. The other one perceived it as a glowing aura. And others, Deputy Base Commander obviously saw something in his tape, his famous mini recording, saw something different. And what we found in secret reports, now declassified, is that kind of thing, seeing different things, altering people's perception, their time dilation, is part of the phenomenon. So you can't say anybody's right or anybody's wrong.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And also, I think, yeah, that's wild. I think that also it's important that I want to talk to you about something a little bit veering towards a different subject that is also related to the phenomenon, if that's okay with you, because I've been watching your coverage recently about the first topic we covered on the first video we did about the SETI at home discoveries in the early 2000s. You spoke to someone recently. Can you please give us a quick rundown of what you talked about and who you talked to?
My life, Pavel, my life is, I mean, Rendlesham Forest is great, but the last couple of weeks, it's been a complete roller coaster. I was being interviewed by French television. I've had newspaper articles. I had a reporter yesterday, speaking to me about it. I mean, a French major leading astronomy magazine, because it's a European story. So just quickly for people who aren't aware of this, SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, had a screensaver called SETI at Home, and it was more popular than they imagined. You probably had it. I had it. We all had it. And it was run by Berkeley in California University. And they, not to disappoint anybody, repeated the scans of the sky multiple times and sent different data of the same place. This is very important if you know your statistics, to multiple people, and all came up individually as, the SETI at Home program went, is there anything there? No, maybe no. We'll call it no. And they came up with no. But there was a few little maybes. But because they had multiple millions of copies of this software that went out to you and me, the tiny maybe, if you do very interesting mathematics that was done by an Italian mathematician, statistical analysis more recently, the software is and the data is open source, found all the maybes, and those maybes amplified into, I think I was told, 5 very possible, good, likely signals of technological non-human activity. This is where you've eavesdropped on an alien planet that is using electromagnetic spectrum. I mean, they're aliens. It's not going to be the Beach Boys. It's not a radio broadcast. It's not I Love Lucy show that people are always telling me. No, they're ET. Who knows what they're actually doing with it? But there were at least 5 and maybe more, I was told, actually, very interesting possibilities to look at. But there wasn't the funding. Along came Breakthrough Listen, a privately funded by very rich people based in Oxford, England, but again, multinational. And suddenly the EU, with the Horizon, which is the program that funds all science in the EU, everything, medical, radio astronomy, everything, for so much money. Breakthrough Listen bought all the available radio time from places like Arecibo before it collapsed, and from Green Bank in Virginia, and in Germany, in Australia, the Parkes Radio Telescope, and they helped fund this thing called the Square Kilometre Array, which is the biggest ear in the world. China have one, but they're not part of SETI. They're not part of this, which is a shame. And what I was told is that they immediately went for the 5 signals. And they went, we've now got the listening ability to actually pinpoint and find if any of these have a technological signature of an alien planet, that's buzzing with something. And they found one. They found more than one, to be honest, but they found one very good candidate, which is called BL, Breakthrough Listen C, Candidate 1, BLC1, and it's actually quite close. I forget the star system on purpose, not that you're going to go there, but it's reasonably close to us. And they denied it. They said, no, there's nothing there. Their press release, their peer-reviewed paper, said that they did find a signal, but it was so low level that it was in the low information zone, the LIS, of signals, and it could have been caused by human interference. They can't absolutely guarantee that it is a technological signature from an alien planet.
What is your read on that?
It's not true. It's not true. My read on that, great question, Pavel, is they were told to say that, I think. I think partially it's true, but I spoke to the person who did the observing. I spoke to the person who actually analyzed the signal. And what he told me was this. He said, yeah, I know. It's very frustrating. But he would like to tell me the truth. He said, it's got 3 parameters which make it real. One, it's a pinpoint source. So it's when you point your telescope at this planet, and I'll prove that it's a planet, you hear it. When you move the telescope away, it goes away. And they do that multiple times. And every time they go back to where they think it is, bing, it comes up. That's a good signal. That's a good proof that it's coming from a single point source. It's not saying what it is. The second thing he said, and I've never heard this openly from Breakthrough Listen or SETI, is that the signal that they found was narrowband. It's not the buzz of radio astronomy in space, like hydrogen. It's like, wah. And this was beep. It was a signal that was just a small or relatively narrow band of electromagnetic wavelengths. It's a brilliant signal. It's a brilliant case. And the third is, I need to explain this. This really, really, really nails it for me. So where's it coming from? A planet, maybe? Okay, how do you know if it was coming from a planet? Because planet orbiting a distant solar system, a distant star, would be in orbit. And you can keep that signal by a steerable dish, either phase array or mechanical steerable, in your radar or in your radio dish for about 2 hours. That's about before the Earth turns away and loses it. And in those 2 hours of observation, they saw the signal Doppler shift, meaning that it was coming from something that was moving. It was either coming towards them or going away whenever they looked at it, and that proved it was coming from a planet that was twiddling around, and it was in orbit around its star. So, in orbit, it's a planet. Narrow, it kind of implies that it's something that is not a natural source, and only a pinpoint source. And I'm happy to put that out. For some reason, Breakthrough Listen, I think, don't want that really published, and I think it's foolish. I did interview the head of Breakthrough Listen, who's also the head of SETI and has the Drake Prize for 2024. He's the top man on SETI and Breakthrough Listen. He's the principal investigator, and he said to me that it's not a good enough signal. And I said, so are you still listening? He went, yeah, we're still listening to that one.
So you got him.
They're looking. Yeah. I went, oh, thanks, mate. That's good. And I said, and others? He went, yeah, there's a few others. I went, okay, so they're definitely onto something. And he really wants Breakthrough Listen to find something. And they now have not only the ears, the radio telescopes, but they've now networked them together. So Parkes and Square Kilometer Array and Africa and Germany and other countries can now be multiplexed, I assumed, by internet. And he said, no, the data is so, Pavel, so large that what they do is record terabytes of data from each station, all looking at the same source, and then ship the drives to Berkeley or a lab where they sync them all up, and then they can get a higher bandwidth of what they're looking for. He says it's actually quite old school because there's so much data, but that's what Breakthrough Listen are doing. And why they're not admitting they found something, I don't really know. Maybe
I know why.
Why? Yes,
I know why. I'm going to tell you. I'm connecting the dots here. Have you heard about Steven Spielberg's new movie?
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Do you know what the name of it is?
It's title? Something about time. No, what's the name?
Dish.
Oh, okay. All right. He knows what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah, he does. And he's made
and it's not
before.
It's coming out in 2026. So he's got time to actually, by 2026, one of these 5 signals, maybe BLC, Breakthrough Listen 1, or one candidate 1, or one of the other candidates, might be of strong enough and better resolution to actually say there's something out there.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, let's one last subject just before you go, because I know you gotta go in a little bit. I wanted to ask you a little bit about this disclosure, which is a loaded term in my view, and a lot of the stuff that John talked about also. But I want to ask you, how do you feel about that, and what does disclosure mean to you?
I actually hate it. I'm being extreme here. I don't, but I mean, I don't like the concept. I think the very concept of your government, especially if you're American, that you don't trust, the military who wrote the book on secrecy, why would they disclose what they have an advantage with? Something secret, something which could be weaponized, something that they want to keep from other nations. Okay, I mean, other countries might, where you in Mexico and me in France, we like our governments, we vote for them anyway. And, I actually trust them. And I think I would actually trust the French government to actually be honest. And in fact, they are very honest about UAP. I don't think the Americans are very I think they've got a lot of vested interest, and hanging your shirt and hanging your hopes that your government, the American government or American military, are going to go, oh, we found aliens, is bollocks. I mean, the word that I like to use is confirmation. We want science independently from the multinational human race of every country in the world who are doing this kind of research. And this, it's not just American. I'm sure your country, I know my country, is doing lots of research into this fascinating subject. You've got amazing scientists, the scientists who speak French, who do the same kind of work. We are going to be the ones who go, oh, confirmation, and we're not going to get disclosure. It's never going to happen. But somebody somewhere in the world is going to say, everything you thought about, it's probably true.
Yeah, I share the same feeling. And me, that I've been talking to scientists about a specific case with desiccated bodies. They have the bodies in front of them and they have tested them. And the info that I've gotten from them is very contrary to what the US is trying to put out. And it's on purpose. I can tell now. And there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially from them. And it just makes me, because I've told you this before, and I don't know if you've heard about it, because initially I was like, they seem like they want to do something good. This group that is apparently fighting for disclosure for the people. But then I realized that they're very closed to outsiders. And if you don't fall into what they want to say, you're not part of the cool kids club. And I was like, part of the cool kids I want to talk to everybody, but if they tell me you can't ask something, then I don't want to talk to them. Simple as that.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. I mean, I think that's I think it's very petty. I think the UFO community are quite aggressive. I think they are, they tend to believe stuff, and I don't believe it. I want to, have scientific independent proof. And I also want to involve every country in the world that I can get data from. There's fascinating cases all over our planet. Let's not just do a flying saucer in Wisconsin. I mean, we really want,
so true.
They don't just land in the farmer's field.
True.
There's a million cases all over the world. I mean, and the other thing I'd just like to say very strongly is that I don't understand why the US are ignoring what France in the Cometa report and Britain with the Condon report have both officially, government published papers have said officially UAP are real. So why are you still debating it, Congress? I mean, UAP are real. We need to find out what they are, where they're from, how do they work? Are they telling us stuff? Are they aggressive? Are they friendly? But what still debating, is it really true, is rubbish. They've been true for hundreds of years, and they're officially true in other countries.
It's because of the contracts they want. It's because of the tech. That's why.
Yeah.
They're fighting over tech in there between themselves. That's what's happening. And they're taking people for a ride in a sense. But I know, I trust people. I know people are not dumb. They know how to discern between one thing and the other. But I think it is your and my and other creators' responsibilities with the internet, as wide as it is, to let them know what is going on, because they're not getting the full picture from the government. So,
or the media. I mean, the media just want to spin another Tic Tac flying saucer story. Although the Tic Tacs kind of interesting, but some of them aren't. The Tic Tacs are good. Sorry, Simon. Sorry, Pavel. It's a bad example for me. But I mean, there's a lot of complete crap out there which you see as background images, behind the news desk, talking about flying saucers, and it's going, well, that's an airplane. That's a phone camera. JPEG compression. I mean, go on, I know this. We actually need you your work and a bit of my work to actually be social media science. You know, viewers, you're going to hear it on channels like this first. We
Yeah,
are digging beyond the news, beyond the media, and into the science internationally. Because it's something that the world needs to know. And I think the world's ready for it. I mean, I think the excuse is like, oh, it will upset your granny. Well, it might, but I mean, I
that's
think we could do
BS. That's
some
BS.
quite big changes. It would be good. It would be fantastic to
Yeah,
say that there's non-human intelligence here on Earth, as there is right now.
that's perfect for closing up, Professor. I
Well,
want
thank
to
you for having me.
I want to thank you so much for being on the
Mm,
show again. I hope this is not the last time. I hope we can do a round 3 soon
right,
to follow up on
right.
the SETI stuff and the John Burroughs work. I think it's very important, and I want to thank you for everything you do for the topic.
Well, thank you for watching my channel. I certainly watch yours, and as I said, I think viewers, watch Pavel's channel, watch mine, watch social media science generally. Get as many views as you can. Try and cut through confirmation bias and listen to other people's point of view, because you're not going to hear it from your government. You're going to hear it from independent filmmakers.
Yeah. How can people find you on social media? I'm gonna leave it in the description, but please let the
Yeah,
people
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. If you want to find me on social media, please do. I have a YouTube channel called Professor Simon, and mainly publish at least one, maybe sometimes two films a week. And there's hundreds of films out there that you can watch. Specifically, John Burroughs from the Rendlesham Forest incident has been working with me for the last 4 years, and we're now on film 12. So if you want 12 really, really in-depth looks at the history of physics and what actually happened at Rendlesham Forest and what's in that area, answering some of the big questions, and coming up is going to be some really, really revealing stuff, including a film that we've just recently made, which is going to blow people's socks off. And I'm not talking about his documents. I'm talking about another film, which is really interesting. Yeah, watch me on YouTube, Professor Simon. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. And guys, thank you for watching. If you like the content you see, hit the thumbs up, comment, subscribe, share. Everything
Yeah,
helps the channel keep growing. And I want to thank the
yeah.
professor again. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll
Thank
see you
you.
on the next time.
Yeah, thanks, Pavel. All right.
All right. Take care. Bye.